Hey friend, welcome to Healthy by Heather Brown. Do terms like mental health, intermittent fasting, and buzzy wellness words make you feel overwhelmed? If you don't know where to start with loving the life you already have and letting your good things grow until they become daily habits, I got you, mama. So join me as we unpack what it looks like to live a life well loved and redefine a new approach to health from the inside out. Think of this space as your girlfriend's group text with the occasional dad joke and point of view from my Yankee hubby, Eric. We promise to give you key takeaways that you can implement right away to pursue health in your mind, body, and soul because God made us that way. Don't stress. Let's hop on this Hot Mess Express together. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Healthy by Heather Brown. I am thrilled to have our third time guest. He actually is the only person that's been on the podcast multiple times, which we're so honored to have him. It is Dr. John, my chiropractor and naturopath that you guys see me go to his office here in Birmingham, Alabama. It's at Archetype in Homewood. But not only does he started out as a chiropractor essentially here in Homewood, but now he actually offers nutritional evaluations, movement, all kinds of different things that I will let him speak to next. So without any further ado, Dr. John, welcome to the show again.
Thanks. Yep,
yeah. Third time's the charm, right?
Yep. I appreciate you having me on, and I've always enjoyed talking with you. So thank you for also giving me an opportunity to speak to people and educate. So
yeah, for sure. I'm honored to have you. So what did I miss that people might be like, if they've never heard of you or hadn't seen my stories before, that they might be like, okay, what does he do exactly at Archetype? You say he's a doctor. Like, what kind of doctor is he? If you don't mind going into specifics, that'd be great.
Yeah. So classically trained as a chiropractor, just curiously, infectiously curious about learning about the human body. And before I die, I plan to learn everything about the human body. So hopefully
quite a lofty goal.
So it's I got a long way to go. I love learning, and I also am a control freak by heart. Like, I want to be able to take care of my health and take care of my family's health, and an extension of that is taking care of other people. Like, naturally, healthcare providers usually go to school to take care of themselves first, to fix things, and then we learn that through our experience, through taking care of other people, we get better at it. And selfishly, Archetype was came out of the efforts of me not having what I wanted here in Birmingham. So I built the facility that I wanted, and it's truly a natural healthcare facility. A lot of times you'll see other healthcare providers have stuff on their signage that says health, that says, look at one of the hospitals in Birmingham. It says the name of the place and it says health on it. And like, yeah, you can look at like a hospital as like health care, but it's more like sick care. So I wanted to have a facility that is truly focused on healthcare. So healthcare being, how do you address things that are ailing people where their health is, like, their life is not compromised. So we're still within that realm of natural health. That is where our healthcare end is satisfied. So that's what the chiropractic, that's what natural health, like anything that people come into us like in an acute manner, we can address that. But the other aspects of health is looking at your blood work, looking at your body composition, looking at energy systems, and then dealing with all the problems that come along with that naturally. So truly naturally, not synthetically. In every realm of what we do is we want to make sure that we address it naturally, the way, if we did not have access to science, like what's the closest way that we could address those problems naturally? The reason why naturally is so important is because anytime you, and we're going to talk about this today, is like anytime you have put something into the body or do something to the body that is unnatural, you have repercussions. And sometimes those repercussions are worth it. But I built Archetype to address the body naturally, all the way from like fitness, strength, performance, making the body more resilient, to fixing metabolic issues and fixing biomechanical issues. So if you come to Archetype, then you'll have access to all of that. We have a team of about 20 and of chiropractors, muscle therapists, nutritionists, neuroscientists, support staff, which there's no way we could do it without them. And then just recently, as of COVID, we have a booming telehealth practice, which is if you would have ever asked me if I would have had like a telehealth practice period, I would have been like, no, I don't think that'll ever work. And it's COVID really made that propel forward tremendously.
Absolutely. And I think that it's worth noting here that if you guys don't live in Birmingham, Alabama, the telehealth clinic is incredible. And in fact, I'm doing Dr. John's nutritional program right now. So we just did my blood work and he has me doing a 90-day reset. And we can talk some about that later on in the questions, Dr. John, if you want to, but I don't even go to the office when I'm doing those nutritional consults. So if you don't live close to Birmingham and you're listening to this, you can contact Archetype on Instagram or call their office, Google them, they'll come up, and you guys can check out some of those options. But I did survey my community, Dr. John, and ask them what section, mind, body, or spirit, they most wanted to focus on as we work on launching this season. And a whopping 50% said physical health. So the people are going to get what they want. I'm very excited to bring that to them. So one huge question most women have had as they've come into my new membership has been about weight loss and fat loss. There's so many conversations happening about prescription weight loss drugs. I know you and I have talked about it some in your office, and even other people on other tables when I'm getting adjusted have brought it up. And we've talked about it as like a community there, which has been fun. But weight loss drugs for diabetics right now too. I would love to hear your hot take on meds being used by non-diabetics for weight loss. Is it healthy? What happens after they quit? Kind of like, what are the side effects of going down that route?
Yeah, I'm really big on education, and I always want my client to understand. They don't have to understand it to the degree that I understand it. That would be ridiculous. But the thing is, I want them to be brought along that journey, because if you can go throughout your day and you can have objections to doing the right thing or wrong thing, if you have more information, then you're able to make the right decision a lot easier and feel good about it. Mm-hmm. Also, when it gets difficult, people, if they have the right information, they can make the right decision. Gosh, I feel like that's a loaded question. I guess so. It is a loaded question. So my take on anything you put in your body, whether it be natural or unnatural, I love this saying, is that anything you put in has to get out. And so the reason why I say that is it doesn't matter if it's any of the things we'll talk about in just a few minutes, or it is a very hot topic. It's no different than any other fad diet that we've had in the past. There is going to be repercussions. There's going to be studies. I say that very loosely because it depends on where and whose interest were in those studies that validate the use of those medications. Those use of those medications, it will attach to a very specific part of the physiology that tells something to turn off or turn on, and your body still has to operate. You still have to deal with the repercussions of taking that thing. And the repercussions for no matter what it is, if it's a heart medication or whatever it is, any medication, you still have to deal with the repercussions of that. And a lot of times people are thinking of the short term, which they should be thinking about the long term, but our culture does not tell you about the long term. They say, if you're okay in the short term, they don't say this, but they say this like through their actions. If you're okay in the short term, you're okay 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And we treat our bodies very weirdly in America specifically. I guess this is really valid, and to think about like the philosophy of how we look at our healthcare is we're one of 2 countries in the whole world that can advertise pharmaceuticals to the public.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they can actually talk to us via a magazine or a radio, and their marketing budget is way higher than their research and development budget.
That's selling right there.
Yeah. So if you think about that, their interests are not in your healthcare. Their interests are in your in the cells of their products. Every pharmaceutical company has been sued for ethical issues, billions of dollars. Like you can go look up, and one of the things that we'll be talking about today is Victoza. Victoza is one of the drugs that were previously approved before Ozempic and Mounjaro and Wegovy and all those drugs that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
So it is a hot topic. I talk about it on a regular basis. I also deal with the repercussions of people using it and trying to get off of it and what it did in the past to their body.
Do you mind giving an example, perhaps?
Yeah. So, example of, um, why don't we do that? Why don't we get into that? Because that's going to jump a bunch of talk. What? Because
Okay.
I think we'll naturally get to that.
Okay.
Um, it's usually not good, but we'll get to that. And I don't
Okay,
want to.
cool.
One thing that I do want to talk about is just, I mean, make sure that it's perceived is that, guys, I'm going to be biased, hands down. I will be biased, but I try to give you both sides of the story. So if you decide to use it, I have clients that I have that are on medication on a regular basis, and I can help them essentially better use the medication so there's not as many negative results from that medication. Some people need medication,
Mhm.
but in our culture, it is that 99% of people need medication. That's not the case. It's more like a 3% of people that need medication. So, um,
That's a wise take for sure.
yeah,
And I will say that the thing that made me first start wondering about this is that a lady that I had heard about through the grapevine, you hear all these different things about these drugs, like, and people are posting on, social media, like, this is my results, blah, blah, blah. Well, then you hear people say things like, yeah, but then what happens when you get off? Well, I know one lady got off of it, and within, I think my friend said within like a week, and obviously this is all anecdotal, she'd already gained back 5 to 10 pounds in a week as soon as she quit taking it. And then another friend of mine, we asked her about that. She's on it, and she said, well, I mean, I don't plan on ever getting off of it. I'm just going to take it the rest of my life. And I'm
that's the
like,
thing.
wait a minute, you're under 40. Like, that's a long time, number one.
Yeah,
Hopefully, good Lord willing. And number two, there's another lady that I know through somebody. I'm like trying not to give too many details. And she got off of it, but she couldn't quit losing weight. And she's now under 100 pounds, can't keep the weight on, like, and she's freaking out because she's like, well, how do I make my body stop losing the weight? I stopped the drug. And so I just think that there's so many side effects that when you see those before and afters aren't being taken into account. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think you're gonna. One thing that you'll always see with the medication is you're gonna have, like, if you look at a bell curve, you're always gonna have, like, people take it, they can take it, then get off of it, and they're like, this is amazing. And then you're always gonna have the nightmare stories.
Mm.
Um, I think we got to even go back even further and just go, if essentially well, I guess we can get into the physiology. You have a few different types of way your hormones work. You have, if you look at the inserts, or you look at the physiology and go start to research these drugs, what they actually do is they mimic a hormone. 90% of my clients that come in have hormone issues. But the thing is, before I can address a hormone issue, I have to deal with how their body is repairing itself,
Mm.
how their body is dealing with energy, which is glucose and fat, and then how their body is detoxing. And if we don't satisfy those three things, it doesn't matter what I do with hormones. That's why when someone goes and they get hormone replacement therapy, when women are going into menopause, or have just got done with 3 babies, 4 babies, 2 babies, and they're having health issues, and you have a doctor that will jump straight to hormone therapy, or they'll even maybe superficially support hormones. You can't just go support hormones. You have to address repair. You have to address energy systems, which is glucose and fat usage in the body, and you have to assist detoxification. So if you don't assist and fix those 3 things, which 95% of people that walk through my doors, we have to fix those things before we can address hormones. So the whole point that I'm saying with that is, for you to take something that addresses or affects your hormones would be like your car breaking down and you thinking you have to repaint it for it to actually move and use it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're addressing almost a super surface level thing when really it's much deeper.
Yeah, it would be like your engine breaking down and then you go in to change the tires. It just wouldn't work. So what you would have to do is you would have to go fix the engine, you would have to fix the fuel, you would have to fix the exhaust. So the whole point of saying that is, most of these drugs are based off of something called you have a few different forms of energy. It is a peptide. Peptide is pretty much saying hormone. peptides in your body, and it attaches. And in these drugs, it is called glucolike peptide. Then whenever you have essentially that drug go to that cell in the stomach, it literally tells you that you're full. And so it's mimicking a hormone response. So one thing that they don't use or don't say is that they tell you this is not disrupting your physiology, but it is absolutely disrupting your physiology. They're not saying hormone disruptor. There's no way they would say that, but that's what it's doing. And so by disrupting hormones, you immediately say that all the things to your body, that all the other things below that, the repair, the detoxification, and the energy systems are irrelevant. So the reason why people are having those extreme issues all the way to those mild issues is that they're operating in a dysfunctional body, and then they're trying to cover up that symptom, fat loss or fat gain or whatever, with a drug. And so the reason why they're going to get an effect from these drugs is it literally turns off your cravings, and it turns off. And so what that does is it drops insulin. When you drop insulin, you immediately will get a drop in fat and a drop in satiety, which is going to be like saying that you're full. And if you do, one thing that you can do naturally is if you fast, let's just look at fasting, something that everyone has control of. If you look at fasting, fasting is going to turn off insulin levels. And when you turn off insulin levels, you're going to better engage the relationship of the things that you eat, where insulin and glucose can then talk to each other and they can work together. And then you can actually get it stored into the body for energy. And then that stores to fat. And then you have energy for later, because we have to fast in the I'm just going to talk from my realm. In the 100 million years that modern human has been around, we fasted out of necessity. So fasting is a part of that process. So we live in a world where we have to eat, or think that we have to eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. People think if they miss a meal, then they get nauseous or they get a headache, or that's literally their body stuck in the process of breaking down the foods that they're eating, and they are not even entering fat metabolism.
Yikes.
So if they don't ever enter fat metabolism, fat is the very first domino of building a hormone. Cholesterol is the backbone of hormones, neurotransmitters, and bile salts.
Hey mama, do you feel like you are surviving on chicken nuggets and goldfish and haven't stepped in a gym since college? Or maybe, on the other hand, you feel like you're checking every health box and are still hitting a brick wall? Well, I'm here to help you redefine what it means to be healthy from the inside out. I'm a former fitness instructor and everyday mom who is passionate about helping you create a beautiful life you freaking love. So I'm opening the doors to the Healthy by Heather Brown membership to the public, and can't wait to walk alongside you and be your cheerleader. When you join, you'll be added to my exclusive Facebook group. You'll receive my Sunday reset training that will help you create promising, sustainable, healthy choices from the inside out, which will in turn lead to a more joy-filled life for busy moms. Live coaching and workout classes with yours truly. You asked and I listened. We'll talk about how to balance your whole health when you have kids and life get busy with school and activities. It includes grocery haul ideas and accountability as we all reset together each Sunday. There will be so much offered that you won't find anywhere else on the internet. Are you ready to take one step out of stress, shame, unhealthy boundaries, and fatigue and add healthy rhythms to the Hot Mess Express? When you're ready, I'll see you on the other side of the link in the show notes. I'm excited and ready to hold your hand and meet face to face.
So cholesterol is if you're inhibiting or don't ever get into fat metabolism, which people are not getting into if they're eating consistently, because they're stuck in gluconeogenesis, they're stuck in breaking those things down. They're never entering fat metabolism. And if you don't ever enter fat metabolism, you're not going to break down fat. You're not going to use fat the way that you're meant to use it. So that's going to affect all of your hormones, every one of them. It's going to affect your neurotransmitters. So brain fog, brain fog neurotransmitters like fluidity of speech, and then bile salts. If you're not entering fat metabolism, bile salts being affected. Bile salts are what is going to help the gallbladder and the liver essentially emulsify all of the fats in your digestive system, and that's a major detoxification pathway. So if someone doesn't enter fat metabolism, if they don't fast, we don't ever get into detoxification either. So if you don't ever get into detoxification, your body stores fat because it can't get rid of those things that it was meant to get rid of. So one of your body's most intelligent and amazing physiology protection mechanisms is that it puts things in fat away from your brain, and then it puts all those things that it was trying to get rid of, it puts more fat around it. So now you have fat gain. And then if you're just gaining fat because you're never entering fat metabolism, you're just going to keep gaining weight.
Yeah.
So did that all make sense?
It did to me, because you and I have talked about it so in depth. Yep. I think that I remember the first time, Dr. John, that you told me, it's trying to get things away from your brain to protect your brain, but then it's insulating with more fat. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Yep. How intelligent the body is, number one. Yep. And number two, I just want to say that if you're listening to this and you're like, whoa, we're talking about fasting, Dr. John and I have recorded an earlier episode all about fasting, and I'll link that in the show notes so you guys can go back. But this is just like a dumb question alert, and I feel like you've addressed a lot of it already, but I just want to put it in layman's terms. How do you lose weight? What do you tell people? Is it start with fasting?
I think that's excellent. So only you got to think about this is that your body was never meant to hold on to weight, ever. Okay. So I always tell people I don't do weight loss, but when you go through the program, you do lose weight because we're fixing those energy mechanisms, detoxification, and repair mechanisms. And so, okay, so how do you lose weight? So number one thing that you have to do is you have to mimic that fasting period that our ancestors used to do naturally, just because they were looking for food. You are more like your ancestors than you are the modern human. So I always tell people more is not better. You have to fast 2 times a week, and not more than that. You can do 18 hours, 24 hours. You can do 20 hours. You can do, as long as you are, it really goes back to insulin. Why do people gain weight? Is because their body is essentially becoming, whenever we eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, we are literally just pounding our pancreas to build insulin, build insulin, build insulin, build insulin, build insulin. We have so much insulin in our body. Our body's like, it's looking at it as like an assault on the body, and the body's having to take insulin and then break it down. So every time we're eating and eating and eating and eating, you're getting this molecule, which is a peptide, which is insulin. It's the most common peptide in your body that people know about. If you're having to make something in response, that is an energy issue. So if you're able to go into fat metabolism, you're decreasing insulin and you're increasing fat. Think about this: when you're grilling meat or you're grilling something and fat drips off of that meat into the fire, it flames up. So fat metabolism is hands down one of the most effective energy systems in your whole body. It is superior than the things that you can eat. So how you lose weight is you have to enter fat metabolism. And a lot of times people don't do it because they don't feel good once they do an 18-hour fast or they do a 24-hour fast. But if you're consistent with that fasting, it'll take about 3 to 4 weeks before you stop having issues. And they're not going to be major. And I always tell my clients, like, you're not going to die. And I'm being facetious, but not. You're not going to die. You're going to see that you may have some discomfort. And if you continually have issues, that's when my expertise and guidance would come in. If you have issues in fasting and it keeps happening, then that's where I come into play. There's something else that we need to look at. The physiology may need some assistance. And that's where a trained healthcare professional would come into play.
For sure.
How you lose weight, the beginning of it is, I guess the thing I didn't talk about is you have to remove irritants. Those irritants being, if you just took out gluten, and dairy, let's just leave it there. If you took out
Okay.
gluten and dairy, then those are massive irritants to the body. A lot of the times people will stay away from fat because they feel like fat is going to make me fat. But that's not the case. If those fat metabolism pathways are working, then you're going to break down fat, but you need fat to be able to lose weight and for you to have energy and for that system to be working.
And I do
But
just want to clarify for you, Dr. John, you don't mean fat and like the Doritos and the French fries. Like he means a clean fat.
yeah, usually a clean animal fat. That's usually what our body is going to use the best.
Absolutely. Even though I would love to hear you tell me to eat some fries, I just don't think that's coming anytime soon.
That'd be amazing. You know what's crazy is when this will keep you away from bad fats is that trans fats, there's new research that just came out that they stay in your system for 3.5 years.
Wow. We've all seen that McDonald's picture where it's like it's preserved. Literally, it's still sitting there like 15 years later. It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So bad fats literally that'll keep you from eating those Doritos.
So true. So
If something stays on you for 3.5 years, like there's no way you can compete with that.
yeah, that's bad.
Doesn't
Okay,
matter
so-
how much exercise you do.
Yes. So, Dr. John, what would you say to people that are only concerned with losing weight essentially overnight? And also, do you mind even talking a little bit about, is there anyone that you would say if you're diabetic or if you have PCOS or anything in particular that you would be like, don't start fasting without talking to a healthcare professional first?
PCOS is not as clear cut. PCOS is like a iron metabolism issue and a repair issue. I would say type 1s, you're going to have type 1 diabetics are going to have, you can fast and it's important, but you also have to have like guidance. And granted, I'm not a medical doctor. That is a medical issue, hands down. So I would say that you need guidance from a professional that can help you through that. Most everyone can fast. Like I have a lady that has Addison's disease. And when she gets to 16, 18 hours, the wheels start to come off. So she needs to handle things differently. And we work in conjunction with her medical doctor to able to get her to do things safely. It really is person to person, because if you've been diagnosed with something and you're younger, you're going to have less repercussions. If you're older and it's been around a long time, you're going to have thing on top of thing. There's most likely layers of problems. It just, if you have a full-blown like healthcare issue, then you need guidance, hands down. Like you probably don't need to be doing it on your own. You can dabble in it, and eventually the goal should be that you get to the point to where you are able to do it on your own. Doesn't matter. Typically, I have clients that are up to 86 years old, and the whole goal is to get them to the point where they are in control, not me. But we have to walk through that minefield of dysfunction to get them to the point to where we can empower them enough to where they know the red flags and they know what to do. And that's the whole goal of our programs, is that helping them through that. But for the general like massive population, they can fast consistently. They don't need the drugs. They don't need the quick fixes. They don't need the fad diets. You have to have a healthy caloric intake with good foods, good energy. You have to be able to burn fat. There usually are other issues, but if you continually just keep hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, it's really important for you to go and seek out someone to help you. But also know that most of the time, if you have accountability, if you have a network, if you have people like yourself, Heather, like having a group that is organizing people to be accountable, hold accountable, jump in the you have a Facebook group, right? That your listeners. So jump on the Facebook group, have that accountability, and be active in that network, because with accountability, you'll get progress.
Amen.
Like for instance, myself, when I'm training for a race or I'm training for a goal that I have, I know that I have to do uncomfortable things. I will put myself in a situation where, for instance, if I'm training for something, I will sign up for classes but I will tell a good friend, hey, come with me and hold me accountable to this. Because I need that accountability also. Everyone needs it. It's where that community comes in. It's where the with community you get accountability, because we don't want to be by ourselves ever. We want to make sure that we have healthy habits. We want to make sure that we have someone that cares about us. We want to make sure that we surround ourselves with like-minded people. With that, that will get you to your fat loss goal. With that, that'll get you to your fitness goal. But you have to build you don't have to have like a massive plan, but if you have a group and have basic goals and basic understandings, you're going to get what you want.
I think there was a stat that said something along the lines of you're 75% more likely to succeed if you're doing it in community. And that is one thing with season 3 of the podcast. It's all about relationships. And like you said, we need community, and it is actually so connected to our physical health journey. And I'm so thankful that I have people like Dr. John and his staff that literally every week, I mean, he's checking in on me and seeing, am I sticking to my 90-day cleanse? Am I getting to the chiropractor? How's my foot doing? And so if you don't have someone like that and you need even the next level up than the Healthy by Heather Brown membership, I would highly recommend checking out Dr. John and Archetype. Now, Dr. John, I know we're already at that 30-minute mark, and so we need to go into our questions quick. I'm not surprised because I knew you would bring a wealth of knowledge. But I did just want to, in closing, would be my key takeaways. I know we've thrown a lot of scientific terms at you guys. I know every time I talk to Dr. John, I'm blown away by your wisdom. But if we could break it down in layman's terms, and we know someone is looking to lose weight, what I'm hearing you say is that we should start by implementing fasting. We should also start by, if you're really wanting to see change, cutting out gluten and dairy because of the inflammatory things. And then is there anything else that I'm missing that would be, and find accountability, anything else that you would say that I'm missing that would just be obviously very baseline to wrap up?
Yeah, I think one of the misperceptions of our society is that you have to have a workout regimen that completely abuses your body for you to lose weight. And that's not true. You do have to have all those things that you just talked about. And it goes into more detail, but I think we live in a state of over-information, and we think that we have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to go for betterment. And betterment is really what you're looking for. And if you have betterment and you have consistency, you have that accountability, I would say fitness-wise, and that collection or that ecosystem of natural healthcare, just know that you can go and walk. Like you don't have to go and do an hour and a half of cardio to lose weight. That's not actually going to work that way. You could just because you require your body to get into a fitness state or a cardio state where you're breathing heavy, that doesn't mean you're losing weight. That just means you're abusing the body. So you can take things and there are times where those things are relevant, but the things that you can do are what you just said, is like fat metabolism, remove irritants. If you're on a lot of medications, I would love for you to have a plan to begin to move in the direction of minimizing medication and eventually off of medication. And if you're on medication, that does not mean that it is a sentence that you'll never be healthy. It just means that you have to have a plan to figure out, are they helping you be healthier? I'm not talking about the symptoms they're covering up. Do you have a plan to solve the getting you to a healthier state? How do we get you to a point to where you have good energy, you wake up well, you sleep well? And I just saw someone saying getting to the root cause. That's the whole goal, is that you have to get your body as close to the point of, as like our ancestors as possible. Modern society, we think that we can outsmart the intelligence of the human body, but what we really need to do is we got to get back to the basics. And if you get back to the basics and do what our ancestors did as much as possible, I don't want to go back to cavemen, but I want to tap into that intelligence. That intelligence is really, really way smarter than we are. And then with science that we do have, then you can implement the things that we know that are proven and then work well. But it's really just time. It's really just having that community, tapping into that community, holding yourself accountable through that community, and then just being nice to yourself. I think a lot of people we're too hard on ourselves because we compare ourselves to movie stars and Instagram, and it just doesn't work that way. Everyone is their unique person.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. John, for coming on and being so gracious with your time and your knowledge, and also just being excited to educate. That to me is just the biggest gift that you give so freely to me and my community, and I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. So with all that said, I am going to link to Dr. John's clinic, his Instagram in the show notes. And then also I'm going to link to the Redmond Real Salt, any other resources that we talked about here. Dr. John has truly been a gift to me in my health. And so you guys, I would highly encourage you to binge his last 2 episodes on the podcast that we've talked about. I'll link the Healthy by Heather Brown membership. And then if you need to take that next step in your health, but you don't know how to get there, or maybe you have complications in your health or medications, I would highly recommend checking out his nutrition program. And honestly, I just want to say, please hit the follow button while you're here on the podcast so you can keep learning as we produce new episodes. And then thanks for being patient with us as we figured out for the first time what it looked like to run a chat box and to have a podcast live recording while also doing it in the membership first. So you guys are a gift to me. Dr. John, you're a gift as well. Thank you for being in my community. Yep. You guys are amazing. Have a great day. Bye-bye.